Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 377. On this week's episode, we have quite a few messages, some of them bundled up in one. Three that we're going to highlight here on the top of the show. Wave 1 of 2025 Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. Wave 1 releases starting to roll out. So lots of messages in the message center around that. Another is, did you know you can create images with Copilot even if you don't have a license? Well, there's going to be some limits coming. We'll fill you in there. And then third to kind of highlight is, wouldn't it be great if you as an admin could see all of the agents in your environment, in your tenant? Well, stick around. We're going to tell you how. Stick around, baby. Did you like that? Stick around. We'll tell you how. Did you not like that?
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
of course. And I did. I stuck around. I was quietly sitting in the background while you were
I'm glad
introducing
you did,
all of those things, and I thought, no, I'm going to stay for the show.
Good. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and we're so glad you're here. Hit us up on the socials, as usual, at 365 MCS. If you're watching the video on YouTube, hit us up in the comments. We love getting comments from everybody throughout the week, so would love to engage with you there. So thank you for doing that, everybody.
Daniel, random question. How's your week been? It's been good.
It has been pretty good. The weather is changing here, and so I have spent probably too much time trying to fix a lawnmower that I bought. And I've replaced the fuel filter, I've replaced the fuel, I've oil change spark plug, I have, what else did I do? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I've been working on that a lot, and it's been frustrating. So the thing's still having some issues, and so I'm still working on it. But other than that,
saying, when there's been a ship that has had so many parts replaced on it, is it the same ship? Is it the same lawnmower, Daniel?
It is. It's just, it's just been a lot of work this week. But anyway, it's ongoing. How's your week?
A lot. Had a lot of work based on training, content, all sorts of things that I've had to sort of customize. Well, I guess one highlight for me, which is, I guess, just requires less thought because I'm kind of at that end of the week. I replaced the switches on my mechanical keyboard, and they still give you that nice tactile feeling, but they're not as noisy. Mechanical keyboards can be quite noisy.
Yeah, about time.
So you won't hear me typing as much.
Well, that's okay, because you shouldn't be typing. You should be listening to what we talk about on the show. So let's just dive right into it. And the first we want to kind of dive in is that Wave 1 commentary. So the blog post went out, I think it was the 30th, which was Wednesday, I believe, last week, and talking about the 2025 release Wave 1 for Dynamics and Power Platform. So waves, we've talked a little bit about on the show before. Waves are the way Microsoft has different platforms, organizations in Microsoft talk about releasing, and they have two waves, and it's a 6-month span, and they kind of way of separating things out. And so this Wave 1 has been something where they've announced what they were wanting to do, and you could have gone and looked at those for the past several months, really, as they started putting things out on the Wave page. And they said, okay, we're going to start. The Wave starts in April, and it goes through, I guess, October. So this is what's happening. So if you look in the message center for this past week, you saw a tremendous amount of messages and items from the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 group. So we're not covering them all. So sorry, but there's a lot of D365 sales. There was a lot of Power Platform. There's some Copilot. There was Copilot Studio announcements in there. There was a lot, okay, people? So I know. But what we're highlighting here on screen is the blog post that went out that has a lot of the highlights. Now, there's a lot more detail in each one of these, but there's a lot of highlights there around what is changing in finance and what is changing in D365 HR and Business Central. So, dive in on the different parts of what your organization's using. There's also information about Power Apps and Power Automate and Power Pages and Copilot Studio, as I mentioned before. So there's a lot there for you to read up on and to get information. And there's also a link to the launch event that they have, and you can watch that live or watch the recording of what was live, to get kind of that marketing, or the overall spiel of what's happening. So we just wanted to highlight that, right, Daryl, to say, there's a lot here. You could spend a long time covering it and diving deep into it. And if it applies to you and your organization, you should, because it is not that everything's now, right? It is there. These things are be focused on in the next 6 months, but there's a lot of things that were put in the message center saying, okay, we're starting to roll these things out within the coming month or so. So definitely check that out. There's a lot there, Daryl, right?
Yeah. I think that's my commentary about how the message center's changed and changing. We do often see it toing and froing between trying to stick to its initial intent, which was, if it's for in the future, like quite a way in the future, 6 to 12 months, it's going to be in a roadmap page. And if something's going to arrive in the message center, it's usually within 3 months or less that we're going to see it within our tenants. And it's like now it's been a bit muddied by having things that are in there that are stretching across multiple months. And it's hard to see, what we're interested in between all that. We've got filters, so I guess we could use those. But yeah.
Well, I think the big thing is, to your point, is you get too far out, then you lose focus because it probably will change before it rolls out anyway. And I'm not even speaking about features. I'm talking about the timeline. It'll probably change anyway. So I agree with you. It's a fine balance of should they tell us beforehand or not. This wave one, not everything was in the message center, saying, hey, this is rolling out in September or whatever, right? However, there's a lot there in the message center about some of these features, and some of them were a little bit further out. But it is just a highlight before we go into the next message. It's just a highlight that change management within organizations is a full-time job. And if you don't think so, then just take a look at these messages. How in the world would you expect someone whose job is not this, job is actually do other things, to manage this, as part of trying to help themselves and others in your organization? It's a full-time job for most, medium to large organizations, to have somebody who manages not just announcing and letting everybody know about the things that are coming up, but also how do we implement these things and how do we take advantage or, mitigate the issues of things changing where it's going to have a negative effect. Okay. There we go. If this is your job and you feel like you're not being compensated well, or you have too much on your plate, take that bit to your boss, and tell them, hey, look, I need help. We also need help creating images, Daryl, and generative AI is something that has boomed, and that's what people, are using to create all sorts of images. there's going to be some limits if you're not licensed, right?
Yeah, perhaps too boomed. Microsoft 365 Copilot, image generation usage limits for users without a Copilot license, MC 1064749. Yeah, too boomed, perhaps. It's perhaps something that you haven't realized, that you can create images even if you don't have a Copilot license. You can go to Microsoft 365 Copilot on the home page where you might have signed in. You can ask questions about the web and web content, because that's the source that's available to you without a license. But you can also ask it to generate images, and it'll come out with sets of 4, and it's using the designer, Microsoft Designer, in the background. It's about the only way you can leverage that with a work account. You can, of course, use it with your Microsoft account, your free account, and use it for more things. Well, when you're generating those images, up until recently, or until this message talks about it, you could continue to create and create and create. And let's be honest, like, as part of the process of trying to create the image that we really are after, we probably go through, no, not quite right, change this, no, not quite right, change that, 5 or 6, 20, 30 different iterations later, maybe we get to the point where we've got what we're after. People without a license will now have a daily limit. This is from late April, so that's now, right now. There'll be a daily limit for the number of images you can generate. When you hit that limit, there will be a message informing you that you have reached your daily limit or allotment, and you will need to have a Copilot license to create additional images. The interesting thing here, Daniel, is that there isn't a limit that's published. You are not going to be told what that limit is, and it may vary based on the weather. It's almost like, I say the weather, it's like there's this processing report. Can you imagine, like, in the future here, it's like we've got weather forecasters that say, well, today's capabilities or capacity for AI data centers, we have sunshine over here, so we'll be able to process more image generation. But we do hear that there's chances of rain in the afternoon where there will only be a few images that can be generated.
Yeah, I think for most people, that use image generation, they know it costs something, right? You go and use any other tool, there's limits already to generating images, and they all say, once you get to a certain point, they're like, you need to pay for this. And so I think it makes sense. And, it is something that it's very interesting they're not publishing it, because just like you're saying, depending on the weather, it's depending on the usage. If the capacity is being used by agents and everything else plus image creation, then maybe they can dial it back down for those that are not even paying for it, so that the people who are paying for everything else can have that capacity, because it's not an infinite resource. So
Daniel, you hit on the reason why is because the processing power is shared across the data centers. Of course, they'll reserve for this and that, but the key thing is maybe they will need to dial it down for giving priority to those who are paying for the service. Anyway, this is in effect right now, so it's not about when it will happen, it is happening. And so we'll move on to our next message. Daniel, there's a message here. I think that the next title doesn't really allude to how important this change is. I'm glad that it's a standard message. We're going to talk about it for a bit longer. Get into it.
Yes, sir. Microsoft 365 Admin Center, Copilot Extensibility, Agents and Connectors, MC1066154. I agree with you 100%. It is a message that you're like, extensibility, that sounds like, a developer kind of thing. Cool. What does this mean? Well, this is something that I think we have been asking for a while, ever since we've been able to create agents and we're using connectors to pull in information so that Copilot can use it. And that is a central place to see all of those things, to see it and manage it and understand what is happening with an organization. Think about all those agents that are being created in Copilot Studio, all of those that are being created in every SharePoint site. There's going to be 15 of them for every site. So where are they? Who's creating them? All of that kind of information about those. So how do we manage that life cycle? Well, that's what this is about. In the new Copilot area, we briefly talked about this a couple episodes ago, I think. In the message center, in the admin center, there will be a new agents and connectors page. So you'll be able to go in there and see all of the agents, and you can, make agents available for your users as well there. But see the agents, see what type of agent it is. Is it, available, or is it something that's you've blocked it? When was it created? What app is it supported in? Where is it in deployment? Who installed it? Who created it? Who's the publisher? All of that information, which is information that we've been wanting, right, to see a holistic look, will be available to us. Daryl, I think one of the largest barriers for adoption around Copilot is the control of it all. And it being a situation where it's an all or nothing kind of experience. We've talked a lot about this, is I want to roll these features, not just Copilot as a thing, but these individual Copilot features out to a certain group because they actually will use it. And I can manage this rollout and understand, okay, we can learn things from them and then roll it out to other people, gradually. And that's not something we were able to do initially, and we've gotten some features. But here now, we're able to also see, okay, everybody's creating these agents and everything. I can actually control or at least see those connectors and agents going on here. So I think this will help to sell it, to admins, to be able to say, I have a little bit more control. Do you agree with that kind of, thinking?
Yeah, we have seen patterns like this with other products, Loop being one of them, where sometimes tools come out, or even the SharePoint embedded spaces, where not all the admin tools are there to keep at least visibility of what's being created, let alone having some level of control. So it is good to see this being built, because agents are going to be quite an important piece of the offering that Microsoft have around Copilot, and it is something that does help regular people consume and use Copilot as well. That if they're struggling with how do I write the right prompt for this, well, an agent can take care of it for you if you've crafted it well. So good to see a central place to manage those, and the life cycle of them, because some of those agents, they'll be experiments. You'll need to cull them off. They're going to have no use, and it's about clearing it out and seeing what are the ones that are actually working well. Actually, that's another thing. You could use this to target your adoption efforts around the agents that are working well and how they're being used.
Yes, I agree. And also, we're able to export details to a CSV. So imagine doing reporting and some other things. I'm hoping, this is an MVP, right? A first version of this kind of functionality. I'm hoping we'll be able to do more automated, maybe even some programmatically looking at our agents and doing some reports, whether it's Power BI or whatever, and to be able to help manage that story, and understand. But another thing we're going to graph connectors, and we've talked about this previously, right, is using those connectors to bring in data, and how that you can interact with that data. We're going to be able to manage it here as well. So again, it's all this, who is doing this, who's publishing this, how is it being used, how can we make sure that we're not using data that we shouldn't be using, and all. It's I love it. Love seeing this first iteration, and I can't wait to see how it grows. So I'm looking forward to it when it hits, to be able to play with it and help people, learn how to use it effectively. Now, it is an admin tool, but it is one that I think will enable end users to get the services, because admins will feel more comfortable with the way they can administrate it. It is rolling out early May, so nowish. It is May. Oh, wow. Nowish, and expect to be completed by late May. So you may already have it in your environment. So go check it out, and if you don't have access, ask your admin to check it out and see if you do, and see if you can start using it. Next message, Daryl. Let's talk about Outlook. And why don't you give me the Outlook, but giving it to me in a classic way, please.
But I don't want to, Daniel. No, I'm a big fan of New Outlook. Oh, anyway, this next message is about how we manage that experience and switching back and forth and what we prefer. Microsoft Outlook updated behavior for switching back from New Outlook to Classic Outlook for Windows. This is MC 1066342. I quite like it when apps come out like this and they allow us to switch between experiences and try things out. And we can switch things over and, okay, it doesn't quite fit what we're after, let's switch back. And Outlook has certainly been in this mode for some time. We know that there are definitely some loyal, diehard favorites who love Classic Outlook because it has been around with us for so long that we've developed certain productivity habits around how we use it, even down to a far more customizable way of using tasks in a task panel alongside our email. And that's just one across many. But, New Outlook, it's there and it's available for us to try it out. For those of us who still want to remain in the classic space, it may have been annoying to you when you go to open Outlook and it keeps opening up a new, and then you have to switch back to classic and then ignore tell us why window. We don't want to submit any feedback. I just want to get on with my email. So with this switching experience, you will be able to switch and say, I want to stick with classic, and when you fire up Outlook, it will open up classic. You won't have to go through that switching experience. But there is an interesting behavioral change here too, that it's still going to leave New Outlook open. New Outlook is going to be minimized. And I guess what it will allow you to do is you actually still have two Outlooks running. Daniel and I, when we're preparing this, we're supposing, thinking, well, what does that mean? Does it mean that when an invite is in our calendar, are we going to get two pop-ups, one from the classic and one from new? And that would be super interesting. But as I was looking at this, while Daniel was, I was listening intently to what he was saying about the last message, but I was preparing and reading. That we do see near the bottom second bullet point, New Outlook notifications and reminders will be suppressed for that session, and Classic Outlook notifications will be shown. So it'll be minimized. It will be running there and waiting, ready for you to go, oh, I fancy a bit of New Outlook today. Let me just try it out. And it'll, there it is. But it won't be annoying you with all the notifications. It won't make that noise too, by the way. But if you do want to use that noise, do feel free to clip that out of today's video and use it for your custom Classic Outlook new message alert noise as it comes in. I'll do it again for you. There you go.
Oh my word!
Any thoughts, Daniel?
I think. Well, I'm interested in how this how this will be practically used for in the everyday user experience. Why would people switch to Classic? Well, they switch to Classic because that's the way they've always done it, or is it because of certain functionality? And that typically is what I see is people go, oh, they get frustrated with, I need this functionality or whatever. So will they run it simultaneously all the time? Or is it I'll switch, do my thing, and then switch back? That'd be interesting. So hit us up in the comments or on socials at 365MCS. Let us know. What are your thoughts around that? Because my fear, it's not fear, but my thought is that people may have both. So you've got Classic running, the other is minimized, but it's still running. So what would prevent you from clicking the new Outlook and have both of them running up at the same time? I don't know why you would do that, but if you do, then it's not suppressing, right? Because if it's only suppressed because it's minimized, then now you may get those duplicate. You know what I mean? Like this is interesting, an introduction to this functionality, and it'll be interesting to see how people use it. How will you use it, people? I'd like to hear.
Well, and a last thought I have here on this is, why have them both open and running? If you're switching back to Classic, that's because you prefer that. Just, having it running in the background is new. Is it, as I sort of play acted earlier, it's like, oh, I fancy a bit of new Outlook today. Oh, it's right there and easy to launch very quickly. Now, it is just a website. I know there's a little bit of smarts around some of the things that it does locally, but that's part of the reason why it can run in the background, because it is just Outlook web.
I think the reason why they're not closing it is because they want you to switch to it.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want to close it. So, maybe it's I want to flip back because of this reason. Okay, fine. We'll fix it, in new, but we want you to keep new up because that's what we want you to use. This is kind of one of those like, okay, for everybody that switched to Classic, we're going to keep new up and running. Okay.
In the forefront of our minds. Keep it visually there.
Well, if you're a product owner, this is exactly how you would kill something, right? It's, oh, you want the old thing. Okay, you can switch back. And then the next step is, oh, you want the old thing. You can switch back, but I'll keep the new thing running. And then it's, oh, you want the old thing. Well, we'll make you jump through some hoops. That's probably going to be the next thing. You're going to have to jump through some different. It's not just going to be a little toggle. You're going to have to do some things maybe, and then it's done. That's my prediction. So if that happens, then send money. Hit the donate button down below. Anyway.
Yeah. General availability for this change, the switching change, worldwide, and GCC will begin rolling out, what's it say? Default behavior will keep the new Outlook minimized. Why do they reiterate that in the dates? In mid-May, general availability worldwide will begin rolling out the option to open... I see. The option to open Classic as the default will arrive in late July. So, yeah, minimized and still sitting in parallel. Mid-May, option to make Classic stay as the preferred choice. Late July. What an interesting way to break that down. Gradual release of features. Right, moving into our last message for today is something I think, Daniel, if we had captions running in this very meeting, there might have been a few things that I didn't want people to take and put other places. Maybe I should have bleeped it out.
I can tell you a place to put it. Live captions copying disabled from Teams meetings MC106. Wow, that was a beep.
I bleeped it. Sorry, yeah.
MC1065053. So this is being touted as a way to improve security, so that you've got live captions running. not being able to, you're not going to be able to copy that live captions. Now, what are live captions? It's basically the transcript, but live, if you allow me to say that. So if you have live captions going, cool, you're not going to be able to record, copy and paste that, which, great. I said something, we're not recording this. I don't want you to grab live captions anyway, right? Now, if you have the transcript, you'll be able to go to the transcript and get it anyway. So, be careful of that part. But I will say this is important because to keep note, you might say, okay, great. This is security. That's awesome. You're not going to be able to grab this, but people will be able to screenshot it anyway. So I don't know how important it is that this is something, it's like a piece of the puzzle, a piece of the security puzzle so that, people don't grab the information from this meeting. Okay. But I can still screenshot it. So I'm not sure, how important it is all I'll say. But it is something, it's part of it. But we wanted to highlight it because of, if this is something you've been doing in the past, being able to live caption going, oh, they said this thing. I can think of ways of like, oh, somebody said this term. I don't know what that means. Go and do a search for it, or, copy, paste it into Copilot and say, what in the world is this? Or search for it in your environment to find out. Maybe you're using Viva Topics until it dies. So you would go in Topics and put that in. You won't be able to do that anymore, right? You're not going to be able to copy that text directly from the captions pane.
I hadn't even thought of copying the text. I guess I'm so used to seeing it burnt in to a video or just popping up over a video. I didn't really think it was selectable text. That's interesting.
Well, it's not anymore. So, don't get too used to it. So the rolling out here is, and I want to highlight this new environment that they're highlighting.
I was waiting to see how you deal with this one. In fact, I want to hear you pronounce it.
It's actually pretty easy. I'll get to it and I'll tell you why. Targeted release rolling out early June 2025, completed by mid-June. Worldwide and GCC will be mid-June 2025 to late June. GCC High and DoD will be early July to mid-July. And then Gallatin will be early July, completed by mid-July.
Is that a parallel time continuum? Like we're serving this up on a parallel universe or Gallatin?
To be honest, I don't know what this Gallatin is. Is this the new top secret environment that they just hadn't named? Because I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
Maybe it's an inside name.
Maybe. There is that top secret environment that, since we know about it, maybe it's not so top secret. I don't know.
Well, now they're referring to it by its code name, so we know what to look out for. Yeah.
Anyway, I think we may have seen it other places, but I just really haven't paid attention. Gallatin is actually a town just north of Nashville, and that's why I knew how to pronounce it. Now, here's the thing. I may be mispronouncing it, but that's how you spell it, so I don't know. Anyway, that is the show, people. Thank you for sticking around and for listening. Please hit us up in the comments. Let us know. We asked you some questions along the way, so give us some feedback and hit us up on socials at 365MCS. We'd love to engage with you.
So this is the part of the show where we say, any questions? No?
Right.
Okay, well, we can let you go early. Thanks for attending. See you next week.
Bye.